what's going on? Jeff Ratcliffe here. Week 15 fantasy football is upon us. It's time for the semifinals, and in most leagues out there, that means just 4 teams remain. Of course, we want to be that last team standing. Knowing the stats is the key to that. It's your secret weapon on your opponents. So like we do every week on this video, let's break down 5 stats that you need to know here for Week 15 fantasy football. And let's start with the hottest quarterback in fantasy football, other than maybe Lamar Jackson. It's Ryan Tannehill. Since Week 7, Ryan Tannehill ranks 2nd at the position in fantasy points per game. Only Lamar has more. Tannehill at 25.3 fantasy points per game. He has been off the charts. Of course, Tennessee is surging. They're relying on Derrick Henry, but also on Ryan Tannehill. And boy, does he have something special going with rookie A.J. Brown. Dare I say, Ryan Tannehill, a top 5 fantasy play this week. Now, ordinarily on this video, I'll cover different players with each one of these stats. But I am going to double dip on Ryan Tannehill here because, hey, when I was doing my analysis, something interesting did pop out. Over the last 6 weeks, Tannehill has thrown to the end zone a total of 6 times. That's 28th among quarterbacks. And why is this important? Well, it tells us, hey, the more they throw to the end zone, the more likely they are to convert for touchdown passes as quarterbacks in the NFL. Tannehill is only averaging 1 end zone throw per game. I want to see these guys at around 2.5 to 3. He is well below that number, which suggests that his production may just be unsustainable. Now, does that mean that we fade Tannehill this week? No, I don't think so. It's a tough week at quarterback, and he certainly, if anything, is one of the best streamer options, although he isn't likely available on waivers. I do think there's a reason to use him this week. Maybe you're in a position where you don't have to, but I think it wouldn't be shocking if Tannehill came back to earth. But that being said, with the way he's producing, I think we just ride this wave straight on through the end of the season. Now let's go to the third stat, and I actually asked this question. Would I start Tannehill over Patrick Mahomes? And first and foremost, we didn't draft Patrick Mahomes in the 2nd round to bench him in the fantasy semifinals. No, we didn't do that. But beyond that, Denver, on paper, this looks like a tough matchup, right? You look at the matchup stats, you say, hey, Denver's been pretty good against quarterbacks this season. Not necessarily. Actually, if we look to recently, and really we look over the last 6 weeks here, they're actually the number 7 fantasy matchup for quarterbacks, giving up 267 passing yards per game and 1.8 passing scores. It really isn't a bad matchup. This isn't a week where we overthink things with Patrick Mahomes. Yes, I know it hasn't been the season you signed up for, but he could certainly redeem himself this week. Firing him up with confidence. I have him as my number 4 quarterback for the week. All right, let's move off the quarterbacks here. Let's go over to running back. And this is something, well, hey, does it have a lot of fantasy impact? No, not necessarily, but it is a stat that I just want to throw out there because it's freaking amazing. Christian McCaffrey has more receptions than any other player in the league except for 3 wide receivers. Their names are Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, and Julian Edelman. He is off the charts. I mean, we keep talking about Michael Thomas's production as a receiver from the reception standpoint and very well could break that record. But Christian McCaffrey's production as a receiver for a running back isn't maybe getting enough notoriety here. It's not being paid attention to by enough of us. 86 receptions. He has been an absolute PPR monster. And what I love about McCaffrey is with these catches, even if he has a bad game on the ground, he still is an RB1 play. He's still a top 10 or a top 5 guy because he adds all of these receptions, all of these extra fantasy points as a result. We had something special this season with Christian McCaffrey. If you drafted him, obviously you got to be pretty happy about that. All right, let's round it out with the 5th stat. You know, just a couple weeks ago, people were wondering whether or not they should even start Chris Carson. We saw the fumbling issue in that Philly game. We saw the emergence of Rashad Penny in that very same game, and people were starting to scratch their head as to whether or not they could even use this guy. Well, how quickly things change in the NFL. Rashad Penny out for the rest of the season with that torn ACL, and Chris Carson is in the driver's seat. Hey, CJ Prosise is there, but he's not going to challenge for carries. On top of that, when you look at how elusive Chris Carson, here's the stat. He has 66 forced missed tackles on the season. That's both as a runner and receiver. That is tied for 2nd in the league. He has been extremely elusive. And why I love that stat of forced missed tackles, that shows how these guys perform independent of their blocking. That's very important because if they're performing well independent of the blocking, they're creating extra fantasy points. Not to mention the fact Chris Carson faces the Panthers this week. Opposing running backs have been absolutely shredding the Panthers, firing up Chris Carson. I have him as a top 5 fantasy running back this week. How quickly things change in the NFL. Hey, I keep talking about these rankings. You want rankings, you want projections, you want football stats galore. We have all of that and more over at PFF.com.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.